guessing Corey Belanger's not here. Is Corey Belanger here? Corey's not here.
Okay. Okay, folks, if we could, it's 3 o'clock. We're going to get started. We're going to ask you to pay attention if you could. We're going to do the first item on the agenda as your name is called, if you'll all gather here around the lectern. Thank you.
Okay, the commission now taking up matters to do with
Was the meeting posted?
Yes.
Sorry
yes.
about that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Commission will now be taking up applications for special one-day licenses for malt beverages and wine only. First application would be from Thomas Economo of Tyler Perry Corp. at 197 Market Street for the Folk Festival weekend, July 23rd, 24th, and 25th for set hours. This would be an enclosed outdoor area at 197 Market Street. Deanne Ra Villandiva. She is not here, Mr. Chairman. I spoke with her on the phone. She is the young woman that appeared before you at our last meeting on June 10th, in which she was an applicant for an all-alcoholic license. This was for the event for Saturday, July 10th, 2010, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Fort Hill Park on High Street, being a wedding anniversary. And she had been given permission by the Board of Parks to use the grounds, and that Board of Parks action took place on May 26th. At the time, her application was for all alcoholic beverages, but subsequent to that meeting and that action where the commission took favorable action, it was determined that she was not eligible to be applying for an all alcoholic license. Nonetheless, she could apply for a malt beverage and wine only. I think she verbally said she had no problem with the beer and wine only. I spoke with her after the meeting. She followed up with an application for beer and wine only, but she did advise me that for the fact that she would not be available for the June 24th meeting, she had already a family commitment. She was wondering if that application could be approved. I thought very much that the commission would take favorable action.
Yeah.
Also present here is Kaji Wangji, for a concert to benefit orphans at 125 Perry Street for Saturday, June 26th from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. Penny Hammergas of the Worthing Cafe for an enclosed parking lot at 152 Worthing Street for the Lowell Folk Festival weekend. Corey Belanger. Corey Belanger of CB Enterprises, Inc. for Saturday, July 24th from 4 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. at the Jackson Street, an enclosed area adjacent to the early garage. The event is the Uptown Music and Arts Festival. Jerry Murphy of Camden, Inc. of the Old Court, enclosed outdoor area Middle Street and the corner of Central Street for the Lowell Folk Festival weekend. Alan Kaplan, the Middle Street Village. That's the Village Smokehouse, enclosed outdoor area adjacent to 9298 Middle Street, the Lowell Folk Festival, for the weekend of the Folk Festival. Frankie Dakota. Here she is, okay. Of Mambo Grill for an enclosed outdoor area adjacent to 129 Merrimack Street, Lowell Folk Festival weekend. And Corey Belanger of CB Enterprises is also applying on behalf of the Lowell Festival Foundation for the Folk Festival weekend for 3 venues for beer and wine concession, the Boarding House Park, in a very close proximity to Boarding House Park on John Street, the Dutton Street Dance Pavilion, and the JFK Civic Plaza Arcan Drive.
Anybody else? Okay, if you wouldn't, and not any necessary any order, just step up to the mic and introduce yourself for the record.
Tom Economo from the Dubliner.
Okay, Tom?
Kakai Mwagi, no.
Okay,
Penny Hamburgers, Worthing House.
thank you.
Corey Belanger, Major's Pub.
Alan Kaplan, Village Smokehouse.
Okay,
Frankie Dakota, Mambo Grill.
okay. And Jerry Murphy.
Jerry Murphy from the Old Court.
Okay. How many of you have been here before us before? Okay. Some, but not all, okay. Huh? Was it everybody? Okay. They're still not going to get the short version. You know, Lowell Festival weekend is the city in its best efforts, on everything, okay? All right, if you got an approved license for beer and wine, you will have the license posted visibly right beside. The policeman should not have to ask you, where's your license? It should be right there. okay? You have got to understand that this is your license, especially those of you that have an indoor or a restaurant license. You're taking an additional risk, if you will, because now you're moving outside, okay? So you need to make sure whatever peoples you employ, whatever setup you put up, that you have total control of the situation. You know, it's a folk festival weekend. I think, what year is this, Artie? This is the 24th year, okay? By the 24th year, there's a whole segment of society out there that says, hey, you know, let's go to the folk festival, but, you know, they get $2.50 for a beer. Let's have a few before we go. So they'll go buy a six-pack, they'll whack it down, and then you're going to be responsible. You're going to be responsible because this guy gets in trouble. He's going to say, oh, I was drinking at, you know, one of the places in downtown, and they served me. So you've got to have people that are on their toes when you're dealing large crowds and large numbers of people. You need to have people on your toe. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish and think you can put an outside bar in and have one or two people out there controlling everything. It's not going to happen. Make sure that the people you have know how to call the police department. And that's not 911. If you dial 911, it's answered by the state police in, I think it's Andover, right, Jack? Is it Andover? If you're lucky. Probably Framingham. It's going to take a hell of a time. They won't. They're going to transfer it from Framingham here, and it's all time lost. Everybody's got a cell phone. You're not going to be driving, so have your cell phone and have it, boom, and you can call up and say, could you send a police officer over? You know, they're not going to come over kicking and screaming. They're going to come over and help you. That's what they do. Everybody always waits until it gets beyond that point, and then they're upset because the police are there and they're shutting you down, and you're losing your profit out of the folk festival, and you're in trouble, and you're going to be in here, and then we're not going to be happy. So, you know, take it for what it's worth. You know, the folk festival does a tremendous, it represents the city for the entire year. I think that's one thing that Lowell is known for, is the folk festival. After 24 years, you know, you got a tremendous number of repeat customers. You want to keep coming them back. You want them to come to Lowell and have a good time. You want them to leave here and tell their friends, you should have went with us. You could have had a great time. Okay? Anything?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Anybody have any questions before we have any questions at all? Okay? Motion made and seconded. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Now, Ryan, do you want to
Well, I just wanted to offer,
Right.
make a quick comment on something that's developed in the last 24 hours in regards to the city of Lowell making an offer to certain business owners in the downtown area, particularly those directly affected by the folk festival, those who have interest in establishing themselves on some of the closed thoroughfares downtown Lowell, like Merrimack Street, Middle Street, Palmer Street, Market Street. I think a portion of Market Street is closed down for motor vehicle traffic on the folk festival weekend. Unfortunately, the licensing board has just come to realize that granting a one-day all-alcoholic license is not permissible. And as the agenda today indicates, some of the business owners in the downtown area of those streets I just mentioned can only apply for a malt beverage and wine license for an extended area beyond what they may have as far as sidewalk seating is concerned. Having said that, the License Commission will entertain applications for those business owners that wish to file application for alteration of premises in which they may extend their premises to that portion of the street, whether it be Merrimack or Middle Street or Central Street or Market Street, may extend those premises to those portions of the street that are closed to traffic. And that would become, once the License Commission has taken its action, and the matter of the action of the local board is sent to the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission for their approval. Subsequent to their approval, that would become essentially your licensed premises, where you then could extend the existing license you have for the restaurant, for the existing sidewalk seating area, would now become, that new space would become now part of your licensed premises. But bear in mind, the only opportune time one could use that added area would be when the street is closed and when there's a special event, for practical purposes, of course. I have information to convey to those business owners that may be interested in such a matter. It would be an alternative. It'd be a little involved and a little more expensive for those business owners that choose to accept. But it's a best case scenario for the immediate situation. And one would need to act quickly, dealing with the office, the License Commission, and would need to know by next Tuesday, June 29th.
Counsel, you have anything to add to it?
No.
No. Okay, we're gonna, oh, excuse me. We're gonna have a special meeting on July 12th. Everyone listening, we're gonna have a special meeting on July 12th for anyone who is interested and wants to work on trying to get that done. That's a Monday, as opposed to our, yeah, it's a Monday, as opposed to our usual Thursday. We're gonna have an additional meeting, which will be the 12th. Okay, so you might wanna mark that date down. And, okay? Outside of that, you have a beer and wine. I hope you all make $1 million in this. I hope it's 120 degrees out there. Put a little salt on the potato chips, and the beer sales will follow. But let's be careful and have a good time, okay? Thank you. Next.
A number of the applicants have amplification permits, so if you just kindly stay around. Special event permits for sound amplification. Tyler Perry Corp., Tommy Conomo for the Folk Festival weekend. Athenian Corner Restaurant, Ted Panagiotopoulos, for an enclosed parking lot area at 207 Market Street. Evening 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. would be on fixed dates, starting with June 24th this evening, and Thursdays in consecutive weeks through the September 2nd. There would be a sound system for a band. Also, the Athenian Corner for the Folk Festival weekend for Friday, July 23rd, July 24th, and Sunday, July 25th, a sound system for band. The National Park Service, Art Sutcliffe is the representative for the Lowell Summer Music Series and Children's Series at Boarding House Park, 40 French Street. This will be a sound system for music. There are fixed dates for scheduled concerts, starting with this Friday, June 25th, and running through to the end of, to September 10th. Also, the Lowell Festival Foundation with Art Sutcliffe representative for the Lowell Folk Festival weekend. This would be July 23rd, 24th, and the 25th, the sound system for music for fixed the venues being at Boarding House Park, JFK Plaza, St. Anne's Churchyard, the Dutton Street Dance Pavilion, Market Street Stage, Lee Street Stage, and the street performance area. Ocasio has an application for a Puerto Rican festival for the Boarding House Park for Sunday, July 11th, 2010, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. This will be a sound system for live music and disc jockey. The Lowell Highlands Neighborhood Group, Taya Dexon Mullane of the Armory for the Armory Park Family Fun event, which will be Saturday, July 10th, from 12 noon to 3 p.m. This being a sound system for a disc jockey at the Armory Park on Westford Street. Chris Samaras of the City of Lowell has July 4th fireworks show. This will be held at the Heritage Sampers Pavilion on Pawtucket Boulevard, scheduled for Monday, July 5th, and the rain date is for Tuesday, July 6th. Narita Nevis, okay. The Lowell Latin American Festival for Saturday, August 7th, 12 noon to 9 p.m. at St. Anne's Episcopal Churchyard, sound system for live music and disc jockey. The Worthen House, Penny Hammergas, for amplification for Friday, July 23rd, Saturday, July 24th, and also for Sunday, July 25th, but this would be only for the alley at 141 Worthen Street. This would be a sound system for band. Or Corey Belanger for CB Enterprises for Saturday, July 24th, 4 p.m. to 12 midnight. This will be the Uptown Lowell Music and Arts Festival on Jackson Street. And this will be a sound system for live music and/or disc jockey. Jerry Murphy of Camden Inc., the Old Court, for Friday, July 23rd, and Saturday, July 24th, from 10 a.m. to 12 midnight. an enclosed outdoor area at Middle Street, corner of Central. The Middle Street Village, Alan Kaplan, also for the Folk Festival weekend, for a sound system for band in an enclosed outdoor area. And last is Mambo Grill, Frankie Dakota, for a sound system for Friday, July 23rd, July 24th, and July 25th, the Folk Festival weekend.
Okay, if you'd be kind enough, one at a time, to go up to the lectern and introduce yourself.
Tommy Conamo, the Dubliner.
Penny Hamburgers, Worthing House.
Corey Belanger, Major's Pub.
Art Sutcliffe, National Park Service, and Lowell Festival Foundation.
Theodore Panagitopoulos, Athenian Corner.
Ana Ocasio, the Lowell Puerto Rican Festival.
Jay Dixon Mullane, Lower Highlands Neighborhood Group.
Frankie Dakota, Mambo Grill.
Okay.
Attorney Murphy,
you know,
the Old
there's a-
Court.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. How did I forget that guy?
Chris Samara, City of Lowell.
One more.
Nareda Nieves from the Lowell Latin American Festival.
Okay. Okay, folks, some of you are going till 9 o'clock, some of you are going till midnight. See if we can encompass. A sound permit is a permit for common sense. Okay, what did I say? A sound permit is a permit for common sense. If we grant you this license, what we're saying is you have enough common sense to know when it's too loud. If you walk 4 blocks away from your venue and you can hear the music like you're standing next door, guess what? What? It's too loud. See, that common sense prevails. It's that simple. Okay? Now, the Folk Festival #1 has priority over everything. If somebody from the Folk Festival, you know, one of the people that are in charge of something comes over and tells you to shut off your music, you shut off the music. It's not a debatable issue. It's not I got a permit, doesn't mean anything. The Folk Festival is primary. There are places in the city that music will be going on at the beginning of the festival, and we don't want you in competition with them. There'll be more than enough time for you to play your music. Once it gets 9, 10 o'clock at night, we've got to remember that we have a lot of people living in the downtown area. And just as we've got this crowd showed up here today, there'll be a crowd to show up at the city council meeting, guaranteed, if you keep these people awake at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So we need to use our head. We got to look around and say, we know there's apartment buildings there. You know, maybe I ought to turn the speakers this way. Everybody can still enjoy the music. Common sense, okay? Common sense. That's all we're going to... You know, I don't think there's anybody that we've had any massive complaints about from last year's Folk Festival. Anyone you can think of? Anybody you can think of?
Negative.
No? Not that I can think of, so. I mean, if we can't, you know, it's kind of like us saying, if we know you when you come in that door, you're in trouble. If you come in the door and we don't know you, well, you know, we're going to listen to you. But if you come in the door and we know you by name, you're probably in trouble, okay? So, I mean, obviously, we haven't had any problems, and we don't want any. We want you to make it a festival weekend. Music, food, songs, a little adult beverages, never hurt anybody. Have a good time. But just make sure that we take into consideration our fellow man.
No, the only thing I had was I know most of these most of these permits are for the Folk Festival, but for days that are, I guess with the Folk Festival and other days, when you're breaking down the stage of the sound system, just make sure you turn the music off. We've had complaints about that in the
That's right.
past.
I didn't think you could think of.
Now with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. That's right, I had forgot about that, the guy that put the CD on. your coat off. You're a lawyer. The heck, take your coat off.
Commission will now take up matters to do with sidewalk stand applications. Starting with Hilda Solano Hernandez, doing business as Gissy's Boutique at 122 Merrimack Street for the period starting June 25th through October, the end of October 2010. Monkeys Inc., Frankie Dakota, 66 Merrimack Street, for a period commencing June 25th through October 2010. Humanity Lifestyles Inc., Frankie Dakota, for 128 Merrimack Street, also for the period starting June 25th through October 2010. Ailerud Enterprises LLC, doing business as Edible Arrangements, Janice Ailerud Manager, 60, that should be 60 Merrimack Street, for a period commencing June 25th through October 2010. I believe Mr. Rodriguez is here representing Ms. Janice Ailerud. Okay.
Okay. All right, if you'd introduce yourself, please.
Frankie Dakota.
Joel Rodriguez, Edible Arrangements.
Gilda Solano, Jesus Boutique.
Okay. I presume that you've filed with the city and you've got your insurance. And, okay. The main thing I guess the main thing as far as the sidewalk stands, you're not supposed to sell anything that you don't sell in the store normally. That's the big thing that everybody talks about. Whatever you sell in the store, you can sell outside, all right? Outside of that, the other thing is on a sidewalk stand, you should keep at least 4 feet from the stand to the edge of the sidewalk, so that if somebody goes by in a walker or a wheelchair, something like that, they'll be able to go by, without tripping on the legs or getting caught up in it. Anything you can think of?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Good luck.
Good luck, guys.
Oh, that's right. I didn't think of that. Yeah, very good.
All those things are the same width as a wheelchair, so.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. They're made to a standard width because they fit in certain holes.
So I never even thought of that.
They have to be narrow enough to get through a doorway, so same thing as a wheelchair.
Commission will now take a matter to do with an application for Harker Peddler for Fish by Elizabeth Robello of Lowell for the license period of 1 year commencing the date of issuance after approval, should there be approval.
Introduce yourself for the record, please.
Elizabeth Rabella from Lowell.
Okay, have you, you're gonna be working out of like a refrigerated truck?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever done this before?
No, this is the first time.
This is your first time?
Yep.
Well, it's somewhat of mine too, so I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. Does the Board of Health inspect the truck?
Well, actually, I need a license first from you guys in order for them to inspect the truck. That's what they told me.
Okay. Yeah?
I
I
don't know.
don't know. Do you have,
Hey.
is that,
They've been sending me back and forth, and...
yeah, no, I don't wanna do that, I just wanna,
Generally speaking, there's a rule that if it requires multiple boards, any board can act first. If you went to the health and the health said they wanted to go through here first, I mean, that's fine, but if you need multiple board approval, someone's gonna
Okay.
go first.
All right,
All
we'll go
right.
first.
we can go first, that's, okay, have you ever done this before?
No.
No, you're just starting out, tell me how you're
I
gonna,
don't know.
where do you get the fish and all this stuff?
We're gonna be picking it up in Boston. I gotta get a license for that, too. It's actually me and the guy that I'm working for right now. He's the one that's helping me out and stuff like that.
Does he do this also?
No, he doesn't do it.
Okay,
Where are you gonna sell the fish?
In Lowell.
But where?
On Central Street, back Central Street?
okay, isn't there a fellow over there already?
Yeah. He's actually leaving for 3 months to go to Portugal, so I'm gonna stay in his spot until he comes back.
Okay, we're not gonna have a turf war.
No, I know him.
No harpoons at 50 paces or, live sharks or anything like that, right?
Electric eels.
Electric. Okay. I'm trying to, I want to make a motion to approve it, based on, you got to go to I would think you'd have to carry some kind of health insurance. I don't know, but I would think you'd have to carry some kind of health insurance or something also. I'm not saying you have to, that we're requiring it. I'm just saying that, I guess somebody, they're sending you to place.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion to give you your license, and hopefully the other guys will tell you what, okay?
All right.
Does the
Thank you.
secretary have any comments on this?
Well, I was just going to say that she does have, unfortunately, I didn't bring the papers down with me, but she does have her state license through the Division of Standards for sale of fish.
Scales. Oh, okay, all right.
Now, if she was doing shellfish, she would need one from Marine Fisheries,
Yep.
too. Do you have such a permit?
No, I actually got to get a marina official permit for that. But we got to get the truck inspected first in order for us to do that. And they won't do
you
that
can't
unless
get-
I get a permit.
So you can't get
Only
the
in
truck inspected
Massachusetts.
until you get a license, you can't get the shellfish permit until you've had the truck inspected.
Yeah.
Only in
All right, I'll-
Massachusetts,
I'm
I
gonna
gotta
second
tell you.
that. I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
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 Good luck to you.
Lock.
Good luck.
All right, thank you.
You want to come by to see me tomorrow morning?
Yes. All right, thank you.
On this next matter, Mr. Chairman, this is a public hearing for an application for a change of manager filed on behalf of the Outback New England Roman numeral II Limited Partnership doing business as Outback Steakhouse. This being an all-alcoholic beverage restaurant licensee at 28 Reese Avenue. The proposed new manager is Kerry Karuba of Tingsboro, Mass. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Karuba is here. He's also accompanied by legal counsel, Joe Devlin. And Mr. Devlin, situation with Mr. Karuba's application, based on his voluntary information provided to the License Commission, I would advise the board may want to consider taking matters to go into executive session.
All right, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion, roll call, Commissioner Kasian, Commissioner Bayless.
Yes.
Commissioner Weicker.
Yes. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Motion to go back to the regular order of business?
Commissioner Ocasio?
Yes.
Commissioner Bayless?
Yes.
Commissioner Weicker?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, it's a change in manager. Kerry, tell me a little bit about yourself and your experience.
I've been with Outback for 19 years.
19 years.
19 years. I've been what you call back-of-house manager for 12 years. I was a food tech for a year and a half. I've been front-of-the-house manager for 3 years.
Have you ever been a manager of an Outback?
Yes, sir. I was a manager in New York City for Outback.
Okay.
And actually, I ran the establishment on 56th and 3rd for a year and a half.
Okay. Now, have you ever worked in an Outback in Massachusetts other than this one?
I've just worked in this one.
I'm sorry?
This one?
In Massachusetts?
Yes, sir.
You have?
Just this one.
Yes.
Oh, just this one, I'm sorry. I went to the dentist, my hearing isn't working right now, I had my teeth fixed. Okay. Are you TIPS trained?
Yes, sir. I had the certification here.
Do you get it renewed every year? Or every
This is
couple of
the
years?
first time I've ever had to do it.
Okay. It seems to me that, you should have a pretty good feel for the people that work there.
Yes,
As
I
the
do.
manager, people don't understand. You're taking a tremendous, that next step is that step will break your neck if you fall, if you miss it. Because you're responsible for everybody in the restaurant. Whether you're on vacation, whether you're at home, whether you're sick in the hospital bed, in an oxygen tent, they don't care. Your name is on that ticket. So you have to get the employees to a point that they understand that every time they're serving someone, they're representing you. Because your name is on the ticket, not Outback and not, you're the one that's going to suffer the consequence, okay?
Yes, sir.
So, I understand you've got some good experience. You got to understand, we have a university of Lowell right here. We have kids today have access to computers. They can reproduce an ID that the good Lord himself couldn't tell the difference, all right?
Yes, sir.
And you got to be that one step ahead of them. You always got to be that one step ahead, okay?
Okay.
I was going to say, if you guys keep up the practice you've had at this Outback for all these years, you shouldn't have any problems. You do a wonderful job. So,
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
this is actually on for a public hearing. Oh,
Oh, it
Oh,
is.
I'm sorry. Yeah, whoa. Yeah, good thing we got somebody who knows what's going on. Anybody here would like to speak in opposition to this gentleman becoming a manager? In opposition, in opposition, in opposition. That portion of the hearing is closed. Anybody wish to speak in favor? In favor, in favor. That portion of the hearing is closed. I have a motion to approve the license.
second.
Seconded, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. Change the chairman. Okay. Brian has recused himself from this one.
Commissioner Ocasio has recused himself on the next matter. Commission is now taking up a matter to do with a hearing, public hearing, which was set for June 10th, but request was made to continue it to the next meeting, which is today, June 24th. It has to do with the interest rate for a pawnbroker, as licensed in the city of Lowell, and what they may charge for all loans in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 140, Section 78. And at this point in time, License Commission regulations, with the local board had approved, is set the interest rate at 5%. However, the Commissioner of Banks in Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that office which by state law is required to approve the regulations of the License Commission in addition to the interest rate a pawnbroker may charge, has not approved. And City of Lowell Law Department was reminded of the fact that that Commissioner of Banks had yet to approve the interest rate. And what interest rate the licensed City of Lowell has at this point in time apparently will not be approved unless the licensing board can justify a 5% interest. So there are 3 people representing their business interests in the City of Lowell as pawnbrokers, and they may wish to address the board.
Okay. It being a public hearing, if the 3 of you would step up one at a time and tell us, give us your background and introduce yourself for the record, sir.
Christopher McCarthy.
Okay.
I started the store 3.5 years ago, came before you gentlemen to get my license. I did put together just a couple of notes to give to you. Let me step
Yes,
forward
bring them
or-
up. Sure. Thank you.
The licensing, or the banking commission has been trying for well over 6 or 7 years to take control of this from the, from the cities and towns, and they don't have the ability to set the rate. They only have the ability to approve or disapprove the rate. To my knowledge, the only community that has passed the 3%, the reduction to 3%, has been the city of Boston. It is mostly been just let go, and the licensing commissions end up just not doing anything about it. And mainly because it's people like me that come up, single store owners that are just, running a business, and this changes the whole outlook. And I put down some of the, some of the thoughts of, the average loan amount is $100. When I purchased a store, I did like 250 loans a month. It's since built up to about 1,000 a month. If you look at the math of it, 1,000 loans a month at $100 times 3% is $3,000. Now, you've got, you guys have been in business before. That's the operating cost to run a business. It's $2,000 just for rent, and you got electricity and all that. And so what I did was I just identified some of the activities required to just process a loan, how many times you have to touch this thing. So it requires a lot of handling just to, even if the loan's only $25. As I mentioned on the first page, the redemption rate's 75%. So the 25% that don't come back requires all of these other activities to be able to move the items. So there's a retail store side of this. And I won't go through each and every item there. You have it for your reference. One of the items that gets done is, being a pawnbroker, is you come across stolen items. I run my store by the book. I've had $5,000 approximately that has been confiscated, and I become then the victim because I've gotten restitution that involves like $80 out of that $5,000. So that's a business expense that's not a normal one that you would have in a regular retail store. I also provided you with a listing of state by state what the interest rates are, and that there are 35 states allow for 5% or greater rates. It's based upon the amount of loans that you have on the street, if you will. Boston can get away with that because their stores have $1 million out there, so Lowell doesn't have that size. So just wanted to, I thank you for your time, and
Thank you.
any questions?
Not right now.
Okay.
Next.
My name is Solia Plak from Soka Pawnbroker, 28 Brent Street.
Okay. All right, we got your letter. You got a copy of that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I read it, and I was very impressed by it, to be honest with you.
Very detailed.
Very well done, very well detailed. Do you have anything to add to this letter?
No.
Okay, then let's let the other gentleman speak, all right?
Okay. My name is Liang Ia. I'm manager for Mui LLC. I don't have any much to say.
Pull the mic down to your mouth. That's it, thank you.
The first gentleman explained pretty much the whole thing already, so I don't have any comment on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone?
All right. Anybody else to speak in favor? In favor? In favor. That portion of the hearing's closed. Anybody to speak in opposition? In opposition, in opposition. That portion of the hearing's closed.
I would like to say a few words, and I
Sure.
have some information I'd like to give to the 3 pawnbrokers as well, just as to what municipalities are paying under the Division of Banks.
Thank you.
By way of background, this is a matter that's been before the License Commission for a couple of years now. Originally, we were notified that our rate was not approved by the Division of Banks. We then had a hearing, at which point the rate was set at the current 5%. It was sent into the Division of Banks. They did not accept that. Recently, they sent us a letter telling us that we were non-compliant. In getting information from the Division of Banks websites, there are approximately 31 municipalities in Massachusetts that have pawnbrokers. 28 of them have petitioned Division of Banks and had rates approved by them, none of which exceed 3% monthly or 36% yearly. The 3 outstanding ones, as of yesterday, was Fall River, Lowell, and Stoughton. We are the only 3 that are non-compliant. I appreciate what, I think it's Mr. McCarthy, the first speaker, gave, and the detailed research he gave regarding what other states do. In this regard, however, there is a state regulatory system put into place that we must comply with. Essentially, the Division of Banks acts as the equivalent of the ABCC. What the License Commission does here with regards to a liquor license still needs to be approved by the ABCC, and if the ABCC does not approve it, the licensee is acting at their own peril if they're serving liquor before that time. The Division of Banks sent us a letter that, was a letter asking us to please become compliant. It's their position that if a person is using a pawnbroker rate that has not been accepted by Division of Banks, that individual is running the risk of coming into contact with the Attorney General's office regarding issues pertaining to the running of that business. They reference it in the letter that I received, stating that, pursuant to, during 2009, the Office of the Attorney General investigated interest rates charged and possible violations of Mass General Law, Chapter 93A, Section 5, by pawnbrokers in the municipalities of Fall River, Lynn, Stoughton, and Lowell, where the division had not approved pawnbroker interest rates. If this board accepts anything, and as a public policy measure, the Division of Banks has determined that 3% monthly and 36% per year is the rate that should be used, and for any rate, for any loan over $25. They've made that policy decision on that. If this board accepts anything other than that, which you can do, however, it's not going to be accepted, much like last time when we had a hearing when there was counsel and statistics given, it won't pass, and the pawnbrokers who are in business during this time run the risk of pawnbroking on rates that aren't approved by the Division of Banks. So I would recommend that this board approve the 3% monthly and 36% annual for any loan over $25.
Let me ask this question. The city of Lowell has a lot more requirements than any of our surrounding towns in order to aid law enforcement in recovering stolen items. Our neighboring towns don't. I mean, I've dealt with issues in, say, towns like Billerica where there's no record whatsoever of what's bought, sold, traded, left on quote-unquote consignment, and items there can't be recovered as little as 2 to 3 days after after the person is found and the location is determined. But the city of Lowell is much better about it. Shouldn't we have some kind of, or can't we come up with some kind of a scheme where we're actually compensating people for doing all of this, to assisting law enforcement? I mean, we've got no less than 2 out of 3 individuals here have testified or provided written statements to the effect that they've had more than, between $5,000 and $6,000 worth of property that was quote-unquote recovered as stolen, taken from their stores, and the court system's not doing anything to compensate them for helping. They're only collecting $80 in restitution. If we were to adopt a 3%, I notice that some of the other states have different provisions that allow for charges for certain compliance requirements. We can do something along those lines, can't we, certainly?
Not in this form, not today. Today, you're strictly on the pawnbroker rate. That's it. That's the only issue before you. My understanding is that every pawnbroker has to hit statutory requirements, that there is state law as to what they're required to do, and I believe state law requires them all to have a book and have this information.
Why isn't state law then, why isn't state law setting the rate? Why is the commissioner of banks, who has nothing better to do, have you got any money in the bank right now? They're paying you 1%, 2% on your money, okay? You want to talk about thieves, those guys are the thieves. These people provide an invaluable service to the community. They cannot walk into Enterprise Bank or Lowell Cooperative, one of the banks here in the city, and borrow $50 or $75 to get them over the hump. Maybe they need medicine or something, okay? A guy's losing roughly $5,000 worth of capital every year, plus, like I say, I mean, the other fellow wrote a very, very good letter about they take color photographs of everything. And the other side is, I don't care what they lend it. It's like the guy that said, you know what, I got a double eagle $50. Yeah, it's worth $19,000. There's some guy sitting in Washington with a book who decides what it's worth. So I go to you, hey, I want my $19,000 for this. I'm not going to give you I want that $19,000. You got to find somebody. And that's just what these guys are up against. Whatever it is they take, whether it's, somebody, a tool or a guitar or whatever it is they take, if the person they take it from walks, they got to find somebody to buy it in order to get their investment back. And that, there again, they're still heating the building, they're still putting on the lights, they're still going in there every day. Myself personally, I feel like it's a disgrace that the banking commissioner would do this instead of standing up and saying, look, I'm the banking commissioner and I'm going to tell you how to run your business, just like everybody else does. The poor guy that takes the risk is the guy that's going to get beat to death. He's the guy they're going to go after. They're not going to go after the guy down the street. They want, you've got to be making $1 million, you're in business. So I'm going to put my hands in your pocket. The banking commissioner should set the rate, have the legislature pass it as a law, and it's universal all over. One community here's got 18%. I think that's a bit much. But
That's per year.
Per year.
Right, that's half of what,
I mean,
again,
I just can't see it. I can't.
I am telling you that this
I
is a
understand.
state law.
Well, I
This is part
understand
of a
that.
state
So-
regulatory
So
scheme.
then I'm gonna leave it up to them if they wanna go and, you know, take the chance of doing it. I say, God bless them. I just, you know, I can't sit here and put my hand in their pocket.
I would
I can't do it.
highly recommend that you adopt the rate as proposed. I expect, if it's not adopted, the letter that I would describe as conciliatory, explaining the lapse and what needs to be done, will not be the follow-up letter that anyone receives. I expect the next stage to be, they would review their options and take whatever, I don't even know what they would do, but I don't expect it would be to wait a couple of years as they did previously. If you have concerns as to what processing fees that you can add to the pawnbroker rate, I would recommend that you address that on a pawnbroker regulation as to what fees are appropriate that can be assessed with processing. That is not the issue that's before here today. You are free to address that any way you want. The issue today is setting the pawnbroker rate, and if it's anything other than 3% per month or 36% per year, I will just say it will be problematic. And it will be problematic for the licensees, for the pawnbrokers, and I don't know what it will mean for this board.
Well, I guess that's the question, is what kind of problem are we looking at? Because you're telling me if I don't vote for 3% and the pawn brokers charge more than 3%, that they're potentially at risk of action from the Attorney General's office. That's correct?
That's my understanding,
Okay.
yes.
So if I take no action today, they operate at the same peril they were operating at yesterday.
Yes.
And what's the consequence to the board or the commission?
I-
You know,
There are multiple things, and
they can say that they don't approve our decision. We can send up our reasons for our decisions. They're going to have to
And-
approve it or disapprove it. But
You're free to ignore my advice. I'll just say that.
that's why I'm asking for it.
Yeah.
What is the consequence to us if we don't do what we're told when they won't do it themselves? Well, they haven't
There
even
are any
told us.
I mean-
They've suggested strongly that that's what they want. They want us to do this.
I can't anticipate what they will do. I can only anticipate that they will be displeased and they will look and research to every possible option that they can do. They may be able to have recourse against this board, they may not. I don't know, but I guarantee that they will probably look into any and all resources available to them.
Suppose we continue the hearing. We'll take it under consideration, we'll continue it.
Yeah.
I will let them know, again,
I mean, I'll tell you what, I'll make a motion to continue it, and I'll also make a motion that we schedule a hearing to address these fees, because we, as a license commission, are imposing these fees on this business sector, and it was done at a time when, or all of these requirements were imposed at a time when there was an allowed rate in place, and my understanding is that there's some quid pro quo in that. You can charge the higher rate, but you have to do this to help our law enforcement efforts. Now, these other towns have no regulations. I mean, I've dealt with some of them. They're horrible. They don't do anything to protect the consumers. They don't do anything to protect residents. They're not doing the things that we're doing and that we're requiring these business owners to do, and yet we're being told, lump them all into one pot or else we'll be displeased. Well, I'd like to at least set it down for a hearing where we can address both issues. If we're going to set requirements, then we should allow compensation for meeting those requirements. If we're not, then I say we should drop all the requirements that we have that are not mandated by state law and maybe go ahead with the state's recommendation. But if the state agency wants to tell us what their recommendation is, that's wonderful. If they're going to mandate it, they can bring it to the legislature, but I'm asking you, what is the consequence to us if we don't do what they're asking?
and I've answered that. I don't know what they would, I know they will look into it. You know, they may not be able to do anything. They may be able to do something. I can't tell you what the exposure is
Well,
right now
let's find
because
out.
I don't know what they're going to
Agreed.
do.
All right,
I'd say let's
I will
find
say
out.
this, though, that you can certainly pare down, but I know by state law that they are required to keep a book and to have other information, and to hear that other municipalities aren't doing that, it sounds like they have problems of their own, regardless of what their pawnbroker rates are.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to continue it, and also to, I guess we're gonna have to notice a hearing to address compensation of pawnbrokers for meeting additional requirements imposed by the Lowell License Commission over and above those required by the state. And why don't we, how many days do we need to get that on the calendar? And why don't we, I'll make the motion to continue that for the same day as a vote and a decision on the 3% versus 5% issue. Do I have a second?
Oh, yeah, I second it. All in favor?
Yes.
What's the new date?
What's the publication requirement?
Well, if I may, I would suggest to the board, we have the meetings, regular meeting scheduled for July 8th, July 22nd. We have this meeting special for July 12th for the purpose of a single item specifically. I would suggest the board pick this up again maybe in September 9th or thereabouts.
It's fine.
Okay.
You want me to dig it down, great.
So we do a publication of another notice in terms of rates. Do we want to, as far as the rate, potentially the board might consider, as far as costs are concerned, is that to be determined as a fixed rate, or is it going to be whatever the business owner has to pay for, and whatever he or she determines to be the proper rate for compensation?
Well, I guess why don't we draft something and have it ready for that, for publication? But I'm thinking if we're gonna impose additional requirements over and above state law, and additional holding periods over and above state law, which benefit our citizenry, then we should at least, compensate the people who are doing it. When we schedule it for the September 9th date, how soon do we have to have a draft of that available? And let's invite a representative from the Division of Banks to be present, so that way they can at least, if they want to have input, they can participate.
Can they have like an interest, 3% interest?
All right, but I guess I'll make the motion then to continue it to September 9th with that in mind. How much time do we need to post notice? Is it 14?
Well, right now, we're definitely caught up in folk festival matters.
Right.
That has to be dealt with in the next week for any interested business owners downtown. The folk festival issues may be coming up again for the next regular meeting, July 8th. We also have police matters to deal with, complaints. We have 5 scheduled complaints to be heard this afternoon on the agenda. We'll have an additional 4 or 5 for our next meeting, July 8th, all of which takes time to prepare notifications, and if any decisions of substance are rendered on any of these complaints, that takes time. So
I'm just wondering, when do we need to have a proposal that we're going to just...
What you will need to do is, before
15 or 21?
the notice is published, you will have to have, and I would recommend, since the commissioners seem to have an idea of what they want, you should take the existing pawnbroker rates, make any revisions to it that you want, refer it to law so that it can be put in the proper form, then whatever that form is, then that would be the published notice as to what the changes would be.
All right.
So
Well,
if
why
you
don't we
do
get a-
September 9th,
Yeah.
that would give
Why
you
don't we get a
enough
draft in
time.
here, then
Okay,
we'll
we'll
get
see,
something
I mean,
to you by the
some of
beginning of August.
some of the ideas here is, the picture part of it is an additional expense and whatnot for them. If there was a way to legitimize what we're doing to them, I don't have a problem with that. But to just fix the rate across the board, every businessman individually has different expenses. This gentleman might pay more rent than this fella. This fella that gentleman might own the building.
Right, and I'm not arguing with that,
You
but
know?
again, the issue before you today is
Yeah, I understand.
the rate of interest. You're talking
Yeah.
about,
Right, okay.
processing fees.
It's like me saying, okay, every lawyer in the city of Lowell, from now on, can only charge $25 for a will. Everybody. No matter how big the staff.
I think it's more or less similar to the ABCC's oversight on liquor enforcement.
I think it would be if the ABCC
I
came
thought
in
that
and
was a
said you
good
can charge
analogy. He
$2 for a
passed it
beer
up, but I thought it was
across
a
the
good
board in every town. But, look, I said, motion made and seconded to continue it until that date, and we'll also get a draft in for a new matter for the same time.
Also,
Favor?
you need a vote? You need that?
I'm gonna make copies for you.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have,
Get it back out to me.
yeah, I
On
shall.
that modern thing called a fax.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda. Yeah, be quiet. Okay? You guys can leave. Thank you. Thank you for coming up. Mark your calendar for, what, September 9th.
This gentleman, just for 1 second, Mr. Chairman, Chris McCarthy is here. I don't have the final paperwork yet, but Mr. McCarthy presently operates out of 181 East Merrimack Street,
Yeah,
and he has a lease agreement signed for 24 Merrimack Street, a Saab Realty property, in which he'd be leased starting July 15th. Okay, so what he'll need to do is to appear before you in the very near future, one of the next regular meetings, for transfer of his licenses, which includes not only the pawnbroker, but also for old gold, silver, and platinum, and secondhand articles to the new business address.
do you have to advertise that?
I'm sorry. I don't necessarily think it's required that he has a legal notice published. I don't think there was.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Did you have to advertise that he's moving the pawn shop?
He's moving the storefront, he would be moving his storefront. The intent is for, where he's presently at 181 East Merrimack, he wants to move the storefront to 24 Merrimack Street.
I don't know what the regulation says as to, I mean, if it says there's a notice requirement, then he would have to publish it. If there's no notice requirement, he
I'll
wouldn't
do
have to publish
research, but I don't think you did it when you bought the business, right?
Well, I'll tell you what,
If he doesn't have to advertise, so why can't we just vote to let him move it? He's not a
What, you want
problem.
to act now?
yeah.
Sure.
I'll make a motion,
Saving that.
I'll make a motion to approve the change of address, subject to, of course, it being, not requiring a
Okay.
public notice.
Now,
And
you
it-
can't move until you check with Ryan.
Yeah. Are you, motion made?
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor, say yes.
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 Okay,
All right, unless you hear otherwise, check in with him before you move,
all right? Save you from having to come back again. And again,
and again.
and again.
Can it get any hotter in here?
Jesus, boy, I don't know. We ever get, hey, can we get a cold beer? Can we get a cold beer? Just sitting up. Jesus.
Heated seats.
Air-conditioned seats like your car.
Okay. The commission is now going to take up a matter to do with a hearing, open a hearing on a matter to do with a complaint from the superintendent of police, Kenneth E. LaValle, allegations of misconduct against the all-alcoholic beverage restaurant licensee, Kilkenny Pub, doing business as Kilkenny Pub at 660 Rogers Street. Richard S. Barrett is manager. Mr. Barrett has legal counsel, and I have a letter from the attorney representing Mr. Barrett in the business. Just a second, please.
Attorney Manzi, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm Attorney Albert Manzi. I have offices at 24 Main Street in North Andover. I'm representing the Kilkenny Pub Incorporated, which does business as the Kilkenny Pub. Mr. Richard Barrett, who's the manager of record, is here with me today, along with staff of his, Jamara Balahada, I think is how you say it. She's also here today. It's my first appearance before the Lowell Licensing Commission, Mr. Chairman. I'm not certain how you like to run your meetings, but here we are.
Okay, have you read the complaint?
I believe I have seen the complaints.
Have you, do you want it read into the record or verbatim, or do you accept how it's read? I mean, how it's written, excuse me.
Well, I mean, I think the complaint speaks for itself. I
Okay.
don't think it needs to be read
And
into
if
the
it's
record.
all right with you, I'm going to ask Captain Webb if you could give a overview of the complaint, please.
Mr. Chairman, on May 6th of this year, Officer Davidson and Officer Frank Nobrega of the Lowell Police Department responded to Kilkenny's Pub at 660 Roger Street for a reported fight. Upon their arrival, they found a large crowd in the parking lot and an unconscious man down in the lot with a severe head injury. Officer Nobrega spoke with several of the people present. They told him that they had been drinking in Kilkenny's Pub and that several fights had broken out inside. Officer Nobrega formed the opinion that all of the people he talked to were intoxicated, and he thought they had been overserved. Sergeant Peasley was also on scene, and he interacted with a female patron in the parking lot, and he found her to be intoxicated and placed her into protective custody. The officers also spoke with a woman identified as Laura Ray of Newport Center, Vermont. She identified herself as a bar manager in Vermont. She told the officers that she observed several fights, both inside and outside of the bar, and she was quite surprised at the activity that she observed. She thought that that wouldn't happen at the bar where she worked. The officers also spoke with the bartender on duty, Jamara Badiata, and an employee, Nelson Neris. They denied that any fights had taken place inside. Mr. Neris did tell the officers that he had intervened in a verbal argument inside and had closed the bar as a result. The officers checked with dispatch records, found that no calls had been placed from Kilkenny's Pub about the fights. And as far as the injured man's condition, he was hospitalized with severe injuries. It was thought at the time that he would not survive, but fortunately I can report that he did survive after surgery, and he's currently in a rehab hospital. And Officer Nobrega and Sergeant Peasley are here to testify.
Were they able to determine who the assailant was?
Yes, investigation did determine what was the cause of the man's injury, and all I can say about that is, as a result of that investigation, no charges will be forthcoming.
No charges will be forthcoming, you said? Is that correct?
No, it appears that the injured man, who was also highly intoxicated, probably was the one responsible for whatever happened out in the parking lot.
Okay.
Let's hear from Officer Nobrega.
Why don't we have the officers come up and give us their side of the story? And your own, no charges. Yeah.
Here's this podium.
All right, sure. If you'd introduce yourself for the record, and I don't want you to read it. I want you to give me your visual observation
Mr. Chairman,
as
I've been
you
here
saw
before. I know
it.
what you want.
Not, no, I don't want you to read what you sit down later on and you type things and I want to, what did you see?
I understand what you're looking for.
Okay.
Officer Frank Nobrega, sir, on that May 6, approximately 1:30 in the morning, we responded to Kilkenny's for a fight. I showed up. I observed the male on the ground, serious head wound. Paramedics and fire department showed up, started to treat him. What should be interesting about that case was there's probably about 10, 15 patrons trying to secure a crime scene. We couldn't because they were just stumbling drunk. That's it. They were overserved. I've been on since 1993. I've been on a late shift the whole time, responded to numerous bar fights, numerous assaults at bars. This is probably the worst I've ever seen for overservice or intoxication. It got to the point where the victim's girlfriend, she couldn't even heed the simplest instruction. Don't go under the yellow tape. She's stumbling into it. At one point, it was later learned she was placed into protective custody based on intoxication out of the police station because she was so overserved. Numerous patrons, we asked them that to go to the criminal bureau. We had to make arrangements for rides to them. They were in no condition to drive. I had to threaten them that if they did get into their cars, they would be arrested. They couldn't even understand that the seriousness of the man on the ground with blood coming from his head, the paramedics with tubes in his throat. that they just wanted to come and talk to him and help him and everything else. There was a bartender from Vermont, she identified herself. She said this would never happen at a bar like that. Patrons told me there was fights inside and outside. We went inside, we spoke to a female bartender and a male bartender. They denied there was any fights inside, but they said there was an argument between a couple. The couple went outside, and then an altercation happened outside. They didn't see any of that. We asked if they telephoned the police. They said no. There was 3 phone calls to the police department. It was all from civilians that were there. Again, I have to reiterate, in 17 years, they were highly intoxicated. They should not have been served.
Thank you.
I just have a couple
Any
questions.
questions?
I have a couple of questions for
Okay.
Officer Nobrega. Can you just describe for the record where the Kilkenny is and its parking lot in relationship to the neighborhood that it's in?
It's on Rogers Street, the neighborhood, an apartment building. If you were looking at Kilkenny's to the right, probably set back, I believe a couple houses in the back. I'm not sure what the...
Do they have their own parking lot that's fenced in and separate and distinct from any other location?
No.
Half. You know, I think the right side, if you're looking at it, the right side, I think is barricaded. The left isn't. But to the left is businesses that would be empty, closed at that night.
That was my other question. Were any other establishments opened at that time?
Just Dunkin' Donuts, I would believe.
And Dunkin' Donuts where is that location to it?
If your back was still Kilkenny's, 3 businesses down to the right, maybe 4.
Okay. How far in feet would you estimate Dunkin' Donuts to be away from?
4
where you were?
telephone pole lanes, 400 feet,
400
400 or
feet.
500 feet.
Thank you.
Okay. You have
I had
any
a question.
questions?
I was curious, because it's unusual that we get a police report about an assault, and it doesn't have the name of the guy who committed the assault or the names of the witnesses. And were there any witness statements taken at the police station?
That was another officer that investigated that, and it was referred to the criminal bureau. My point was that it was serious enough of the over-intoxication that I made it a point to tell supervisors that this was insane, and that I needed to do a report on it.
I could answer that question for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, please, I'm sorry.
He wants to let him answer that question.
I'll just answer the question about the
Yeah.
lack of names on the report. As a sergeant at the scene, what we did, it was a serious crime. At the time, we thought it might have even been either a manslaughter or homicide. So what we did at that point is referred everything to the criminal bureau. We called in the on-duty lieutenant and called in the on-duty detectives, and what they do in a case like that, they take the investigation from there. So it wasn't a simple assault. If it was just a simple assault at that point, the information that you're asking for would be in the initial officers or my report. Because of the nature of it, because we thought it was going to maybe become a homicide or maybe a manslaughter, at the very least investigation, everything was deferred to the criminal bureau, and at that time, they take up the statements and do the complaint if there was going to be one, because of, again, because of the serious nature of that.
All right.
Go ahead. Now, I think the council has a couple of questions.
Yes, I'm not quite sure how to do this logistically, but officer, you said you responded to an assault and battery
Pull
charge.
the
You gotta pull that
speleoc up
mic
so we
over, it doesn't
can hear
pick
you.
up here, so.
Right, this is for your viewing audience. Right?
Thanks.
It amplifies too. So when you responded, you have made a representation that the patrons were overserved. Did you conduct any field sobriety tests with respect to the patrons at that time?
Counsel, I responded with a couple other officers. One officer was in charge of taking statements off the witnesses. I was near the victim. My job responsibility was the crime scene, which I had a hard time. Field sobriety test, did I give them a nystagma gaze? Did I give them a 9-turn walk and turn? No, what I did was try to hold them back because they were falling into the crime scene. My observations based, they were intoxicated.
Right, but so with respect to the overservice, did you have any direct witness statements that were taken that said that they saw an overservice taking place inside of the establishment?
Yeah. No.
He asked if had any records that they were actually in the premises being served.
I have a question. With respect to the individual who committed the assault, did he have a history or a criminal record? Whoever can answer it.
Sergeant Peasley, he wasn't identified until after we had actually left the scene. At the time, the suspect had fled the initial scene at Kilkenny, so we couldn't actually identify him based on our initial investigation, and when we moved it over to the Criminal Bureau, during the course of their investigation, they were able to identify who the suspect was. So he actually wasn't on scene. The suspect wasn't there. He had fled prior to our arrival.
I guess what I'm asking is, after they identified the individual, is there any indication that he had a criminal record for assault and battery or anything like that? A history of violence? Or?
I'll defer to the, we didn't do the investigation. We didn't even identify him at that point, so I didn't know if he had a criminal history at that point.
Can you answer that question? Were you involved with the criminal portion of it, Jack?
I don't know how it's relevant whether an individual has a record or not have a record when the issue before you is whether or not there was over-service.
I think it's relevant because one of the allegations here is failure to notify of a disturbance on the premises, which means, by law means inside the walls of the pub unless they have an outdoor premise license. But I guess what we've got is somebody who was there said that there was something that went on inside, and they're not here to testify, and I'm trying to determine whether or not the person who was violent out in the parking lot was also violent inside. I mean, generally people who are violent have a history of that. So if this person is a known criminal, somebody that they should have kicked out of the pub, you know, I'm certainly going to take that into consideration.
I still don't think it's relevant, but Captain Webb can answer that question.
As far as answering your question about the injured man's activity inside the pub, I have no information for you as far as any fights that he may have been involved in inside.
That's the injured man?
Yes.
What about the person who was the cause of the injury? Was he in a fight inside the pub?
I would say that I don't think he was. I don't have any indication that he was.
Okay. Okay. Officer, whichever one can answer it, let me ask, who, from the witnesses that were there, who were the people who were fighting inside the pub?
I have no idea.
Yes.
Officer, do you know if...
Got to talk up a little louder. We can't, I'm sorry. I had my teeth fixed, my hearing's not working.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I will
Okay.
certainly try to project. Officer, do you know if the parties that were involved in the altercation, the parking lot, were the same parties that were asked to leave the pub?
My understanding, on talking to witnesses, they were. They were the same couple that was thrown out. A minute later, the male part of the couple was on the ground, almost dying. The female, the victim who was with, the victim's girlfriend, who was with him, who said she was inside the bar, had to be placed into protective custody at the police station based on alcohol. That's the only bar that was open in the near vicinity.
Yeah.
The assault happened 10 feet from the door, a car length from the door.
Officer, you said that you've been an officer for 13 years and you attended the police academy and you know how to determine whether people are intoxicated or not, correct?
That's correct.
And you've determined that these individuals were intoxicated?
That's correct.
Okay. During the course of the investigation, did you determine when these individuals entered Kilkenny Pub? Was it 8 o'clock? Was it midnight? Was it 1 o'clock? Was there a determination made?
No, I think at that time, Your Honors, that the thing was, we thought we had a homicide on our hands. Officers took different points of view. I had the crime scene to make sure nobody else goes in.
There's 3 Lowell police officers here. Does anyone know what time the victim and the assailant entered Kilkenny Pub, if they did enter?
No, we didn't ask them. During the course of my investigation, we're focused again on the homicide. I understand your point. What time did they come in? Did they come in 5 minutes before the fight started, or what? No, we didn't establish what time.
Yeah, I mean, is there any evidence that they were actually served in the Kilkenny Pub? That's my question.
Based on their statements to us, yes.
Based on their statements, okay,
and
that's
for
my
me,
question.
you know, we base everything on probable cause. Is it more likely than not that they were served at Kilkenny's? Yes, based on my experience as a sergeant with the Lowell Police Department, it is more likely than not that they were served in that bar. Based on their statements to me that they were drinking inside the bar, based on their condition of intoxication, and based on the fact that they were still in the parking lot with no other open establishments in the area and no means of getting another drink in that immediate area, is it more likely than not that they were drinking at Kilkenny's? Yes, it is, based on my.
No, that's
I
fine.
can't prove it, but yes.
Because the way that you guys are describing it is that these people were just out of their minds drunk.
Yes.
And I would think that if they showed up at this altercation took place at 1:30, if they showed up at 1:15, whoever was running the Kilkenny at that time would say, "You're not coming in here."
Okay, but, right, and that wasn't done.
And so I guess we need that from the Kilkenny pub, whoever is going to speak to that. What time were these people here, or did you not? If you didn't let them in the establishment and there was this altercation outside, that's one
Right,
thing.
but it looks as though they were, based on their statement,
based
based
on
on the
what
fight
you're telling
that occurred inside the bar.
Okay.
It looks as though, it looks more likely than not that they were.
I guess following up on that, since these people were brought in and they were interviewed and they did give statements, we could actually review those statements and know what time they got there from those statements, right?
If the statements were done, yes, you'd have to ask the criminal bureau. I have never seen those statements again. Like I said, my job is a
They haven't
scene
been provided to us either, that's why yeah.
This is a common sense case. Okay, let me speak to the I'd like to, Counsel, may I speak to the bartender?
Yes.
Is she the bartender?
Yes, Jamara is here, and she was there that night, and if I just may give a little prelude, what I expect that you're going to hear from Jamara is that she was working that night, and that there are in fact two different couples that have somehow been confused into one couple which took place into this altercation, and that the bar in fact closed earlier that night, and that they had no idea that what had happened out in the parking lot was taking place. And Jamara is here, and I'm sure she could tell you her side of it. We also have, Mr. Chairman, if to the extent you would permit me, I have some pictures of the club that kind of can help you visualize the parking lot, the inside premises.
I'm very familiar with the club.
And the outside.
He's there like...
I can offer them if you like.
I'm very familiar with the club on Rogers Street because it has a very narrow, it actually has maybe a car and a half depth in the parking lot at the most, and they run they've past years run St. Patrick's Day things, and we've always required them to have a police officer to help the people across the street. It's a vicious street. Rogers Street is back and forth all the time. It's 1:30 in the morning, and they're in a neighborhood. I'd like to speak to the bartender, please.
Yes.
Although if council does wish to introduce them for the record.
We'll take the pictures.
You probably should, even if you're familiar with them.
I will take the
it's
pictures,
helpful.
okay.
Well, the reason I'd like, one of the views from the pictures shows the view from the bar to the parking lot, which I think if you look at it, you'd understand why the bartender didn't know that there was an altercation taking place. And that's why I'd like to...
Okay.
Take a look at it.
Yeah. You were working that night as the bartender or a waitress? What are we doing?
Bartender.
You're a bartender. Okay, and this couple got in an argument?
No.
No.
That's incorrect.
There were no arguments?
Inside, there was an argument.
Inside,
It wasn't with the people that were, the man that was hurt outside. It was not the same people.
Okay, another
It was-
couple got in the argument?
No, it wasn't a couple. It was two gentlemen inside.
guys?
Yes, they were speaking loudly, raising their voices, and Neris, who was working that night, intervened, and he knows one of the gentlemen, so he told them, calm down, you don't want to fight, you don't want to get in trouble or whatever, so he made sure that he stayed and his friend stayed, and then the other gentleman was asked to leave, and he left. But the people that were the man that was hurt outside was not the same people that were arguing inside.
The man that got hurt outside was not in the pub that night?
He was.
He was?
But he wasn't there. They keep saying that there was an argument, there was fights inside and outside, and that's not true.
Let me ask you this, the guy that was involved in the altercation outside, how long was he in the Kilkenny pub?
I would say it came in after 1.
Did you serve?
A little before, because when the other bars close, that's when we get the big rush of people, so he came in around the same
That's
time.
when you lock the doors.
Well, can I just
Because
finish?
you get all the clowns that come out are going to have the one last beer, because Bill Ricker, the bars are closed.
No, it's not.
Tewksbury, the bars are, so they hit into Lowell.
Which is fine, that's fine. Did they?
There's why they also close at 1:20, earlier than everybody else.
Did you serve the individuals that were
Yes.
involved in the altercation? Did they appear to be drunk
No,
to you?
the lady appeared to be very distraught, but not drunk. Her boyfriend was bleeding. I think I would be the same thing, too.
No, you said, but when they came in, before the fight happened,
Right, no.
You served
They were
them.
not, right,
and they did not appear to
No.
be intoxicated?
No.
Did any of the individuals in the bar that night appear to be intoxicated?
no. Actually, the lady that was part of the couple outside, at one point, I did shut her off when she came in. Afterwards, after I served her one beer, I did shut her off.
But she wasn't drunk.
Well, no, I shut her off before she got to that point, in my opinion.
Okay?
I have a couple questions.
And what's, go ahead.
At the time, how many people were outside in the parking lot? Between 10 to 15?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Were you ever outside?
No.
During the fight?
No, we didn't even know there was a fight.
Okay. Well, did you see the police siren? Did you see any
That's
of the
when
police cruisers?
right, that's when we waited until the police came in.
Okay. Did you go outside after the police came?
No. Only to drive to the police station.
At approximately 1 o'clock in the morning, approximately how many people were in Kilkenny Pub?
I would say maybe 40,
Okay.
less than that. At 1?
At 1?
Yeah, around 40, I would say.
Okay. And you don't know anyone who was outside, you don't know who was out in the parking lot? Is that a fair statement? When the
At
police
1,
came?
there was no one outside at 1.
When the police came, you don't know who was outside?
Right.
I will say, if the commissioners have any questions, we can get the additional reports. Didn't know that was going to be an issue. We can get those additional reports where they got the statements from the persons who were there that night. Don't have them right now, but can get them.
I mean, I'm concerned by it. I mean, this is the only time I've ever gotten a police report of an assault and battery where the name of the guy who committed the assault and battery is not listed in the police report, even if it's been determined.
Right, but I think at least what you have here is a preliminary report where they didn't know because the
Well, no,
person
no.
had left. There were subsequent reports. This was given.
Right.
My guess is this was given right after the report.
Why weren't we given the rest?
And the subsequent criminal reports were not part of this. And that's where the information that you're saying, you know, the individual's name, I'm assuming, that would be contained in the criminal reports.
Yeah.
That person's identity was not known this night. He wasn't found out until a couple of days
Right, but I mean, this was May 6th, and today we're at June 24th, and we know the name now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can we get the name, or is that like not to be released?
Yes, if you'd like to continue this hearing till a later date, we can provide more investigative files and more officers who have knowledge of the
All right,
investigation.
excuse me, Jack, for interrupting. Okay, what is this young lady's, is she with you?
Yeah, she's the sister of the manager. She's family support. She's here.
Okay, but she wasn't there that night?
I don't know if she was there.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
But I would like to ask Jamara some questions, if I may, for the record.
Go right ahead.
Jamara, how long have you worked for the pub?
Since September of 2007.
And are you tip certified?
Yep.
We can't hear you. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to...
sorry.
I asked her if she was tip certified, Mr. Chairman.
Huh?
I asked her if she was tip certified.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have two
Is she?
microphones.
Let me
Are
just
you-
suggest, would it be
I
easier
am.
if you grabbed a seat up here and you were right near a microphone?
If I'm permitted to.
Sure. That might be easier
I
just
mean-
for recording purposes. And you gotta kinda,
I mean, this is a common sense case. This doesn't require a brain trust. I mean, no, wait a minute.
Well, we
You know,
don't
there's
finish.
one bar in the entire area, okay? One bar in the entire area. Okay, she admitted they're letting people in at 1 o'clock in the morning, which is the dumbest thing you can do, but you own the bar, I don't. We've talked about that here a million times before. You're selling yourself for a lousy beer. They've been out drinking all night, and they're walking in your door, and you're selling them one beer. And that one beer she gave the lady was enough to flip her over. That's why she stopped her. She admitted that herself, okay? This guy did not wander down Rogers Street. This is a police officer who has dealt with this for 17 years. That's what they do. They don't need to run a sobriety test. Believe me, they can tell whether you're drunk. If you fall down drunk, you fall down drunk. It's that simple. It's like the guy said, gee, I didn't know he had too much to drink until he fell off the bar stool. Duh. Well, that's what happens, okay? And they got outside. And number one is, they had two males had an, I don't care if it's two males, two females, or four couples. They had an argument in the bar, and that was the first indication, right there, bam, they should have been on the phone calling the police. The police would have been down there, they would have said, hey, it's time to close and send them home and get the people out of here. And this probably never would have happened, and this guy wouldn't have ended up laying in the parking lot, okay? Until they learn that, and I don't know why people that own a bar have to be that dense that they can't learn that the police are there to help them. They don't want to go down there when there's a brawl and an all-out drag. They want to go down there when they're, people maybe, they go out to have a good time. They get into an argument. Let's cool it and have everybody go home in one piece. You gotta, and it doesn't matter to me whether the guy that hit him in the head was violent or the guy that got hit in the head was violent. It has nothing to do with it. It happened because the situation was allowed to get out of control. And it's that simple. It's that simple, Counselor. Right. If you listen to your side of it, you listen to their side of it, it's that simple. The police did a good job. I don't need to know who did it. It doesn't matter. That's not my concern. I'm not prosecuting the guy that did it. Okay?
That helps.
And we can go on and debate this issue for hours. It's the only bar room that was open. It's a simple thing. I'm going to move.
Respectfully, Mr. Chairman, I just would like the opportunity to ask her a few questions. Counsel for the city was able to ask some questions. I think there's some important facts.
Okay, what do you want to ask?
Well, I'd like to ask her right now.
I'd like to at least hear both sides before we reach a conclusion.
You haven't heard enough of the other?
So,
I've heard
if I
one
may...
side. I'd like to hear both. Is that a problem?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Am I permitted, sir? Thank you. So, what time did you close the bar that evening?
I would say 5 minutes before 1:20.
And what time do you usually close the bar?
Everyone has to be out at least by 1:50.
And you had said earlier that there was no fighting that took place inside the establishment.
No, no fighting.
And you had said earlier that Mr. Neros was involved. There was a verbal altercation, but it was not the same people.
Right, and he separated before it got into an argument.
And is it the policy always to close the pub at 1:20?
Last call is at 1:20. No, we don't usually close early, but because of the situation, we made sure that everybody was out.
Okay. And was there anybody fighting from that time, from 1 o'clock to 1:20 in the pub that night?
No.
Okay. And did everybody leave peacefully?
Yes.
Okay.
And we actually restrained one of the people so that he wouldn't go outside and fight.
And when did you find out that the police had come to the parking lot?
I'm sorry?
When did you know the police had come to the parking lot?
When we heard the sirens and saw the lights.
I see. And had you seen anyone fighting, would you have called the police?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
I mean, I think, just my own personal opinion here, looking at the complaint, there was 3 allegations. The first one is that no licensee for the sale of alcoholic beverages shall permit any disorder, disturbance, or illegality of any kind to take place in or on the licensed premises. The licensee shall be responsible, therefore, whether present or not. From the testimony of both the officers and the bartender, I don't see how we could find them in violation of that. On the second one, the failure to notify the police department of any violation of the law, disorder, or disturbance in violation of Section 25. I do believe the bartender that she put the individuals outside, and if you do look at the pictures, it does close off the parking lot, and it's difficult to see what is going on outside, and I know, driving on that, street every day, it does get dark there at night. So I tend to believe her that, maybe she didn't know what was going on. However, the third allegation is that they delivered alcoholic beverages to an intoxicated person in violation of MGL 13869. I do think that after hearing the testimony of the officers, that did occur, and the testimony of the bartender, that those individuals were served. And in hearing from Officer Norbega, it sounds like, Norbrega, excuse me, that I don't know why he would say it was the worst he's ever seen if it wasn't the worst he's ever seen, because I know we get a lot of these complaints, his name's in a lot of them. he's out there on the overnight shift, he sees a lot of this stuff, and he said it was about as bad as it can be. So my recommendation, I won't make a motion yet, but my recommendation would be to close Kilkenny Pub for 3 days.
If I could make some closing arguments, if I don't know, I took the liberty, and I'll give some to council, if I may.
Yeah?
Sure.
Can I ask you a question? You said you had to restrain one of them to keep him from going outdoors and fight.
No, not physically restrained. I
And
wasn't.
physically, though?
No, Neris talked to him
Well,
because
what do
he
you
knows
mean
him.
restrain then?
He talked to him and made sure that he didn't go outside so that he could.
So did he stand in the doorway so he couldn't get out?
No, he calmed him down. He went and he let his friend stay with him so that they can calm him down and talk him not into going outside.
So I don't know if you guys want to say anything, but I would make a motion that we suspend the license of Kilkenny Pub. We'll give them the, the appeal period and then suspend it for 3 days. And
With respect to the overservice that's been presented by the police department, with all respect to what they've offered, I just supplied the commission, with some information with respect to some previous decisions from the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission as to overservice and what the standards would be. And it really, it's a direct, there has to be direct evidence of overservice, and the commission has found that. I offered on page 2 of the exhibit a decision from the ABCC as to the Finders Pub, which shows that, a suspension was overturned, even though there was a manifestation of watery eyes and moderate odor of alcohol. It really wasn't enough, and they needed an expert to show it. I understand that this commission really has broad latitude, but I would like to offer just a little background to Mr. Barrett. And he recently received a letter from the police department on June 9th that he had done an exceptional job and passed whatever police protocols they were as to an underage person test that had been submitted. I'd like to offer that to you. And, he's owned the pub since 2000. It's a family-owned business. They support various activities in the community. So they host golf tournaments. They support Saints Memorial Hospital. I believe that this is the first time there's ever been an incident like this, even if you look at the past record with respect to what they do on the St. Patrick's Day celebration. And, it's a family-run business. He's a lifelong resident of Lowell. It's something that's, I think, in good standing on the tax rolls, and notwithstanding the seriousness of what may have occurred and, as the facts may play out, we'd ask that perhaps that you take their record into consideration.
I think all of us up here are very familiar with Mr. Barrett and the Kilkenny Pub and the location, and I know they support numerous charities throughout the city of Lowell. But I think when you have a police officer testify that this is the worst that he's seen of overservice of patrons, I think by saying that a 3-day suspension is what I'm recommending, I think that is taking into account the charity and the goodwill that he's earned in the community. I know that we have other establishments that are coming up next that their license would be gone because of this. And because he's done such a good job it's a tough location to get people in and out of. They do an excellent job of keeping it clean. It's in the middle of a neighborhood. They do a good job. That's why I'm recommending 3 days. But I think 3 days will make sure that they're not letting, and she testified that they came in. Obviously, they were drunk when they came in. That's, when you sit up here, you don't throw your common sense out the window. It's just like a judge, and I'm not equating myself to a judge, but you don't throw your common sense out the window. Common sense tells me they came in intoxicated. She admitted she served them. There was an altercation that maybe she didn't have anything to do with, but there was some overservice that took place. It was very serious, and that's why, taking into account the goodwill, I'm still making a motion that we suspend the license for 3 days.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna just let you know, I know it's your first time appearing in front of this board.
Yes, sir.
And on the law, yes, you're 100% right, all right? But sometimes we defer to common sense and ignore the law. And I think that's what we're getting a recommendation for. You're right, we didn't have anybody testify that the person at the time they were handed a drink was obviously intoxicated. As a matter of fact, The only testimony on the record is that they didn't appear to be intoxicated by a tip-certified person. So on the law, you're right.
Well, I think you're wrong about that,
I-
though, because
I
the
would-
officer testified that he's
sorry.
gone through the police academy and
Right,
has-
but the
And described him
testimony
as
was
falling
that-
down drunk.
The testimony and the law requires that that the observation has to be that at the time they were handed the alcoholic beverage, they were visibly intoxicated, not that they appeared to be intoxicated when encountered after consuming alcoholic beverages. The law specifically says that the evidence has to be that they were readily, apparently intoxicated at the time they were handed the beverage. And every ABCC decision on the matter has involved a investigator observing an intoxicated person in a bar, then be served a drink.
I would disagree.
But-
I would
I'm
say...
not, look, I'm not saying,
No,
you know, I'm not
but
disagreeing.
I want
with
the
what
record to be clear that it's
my
the
fellow
city's
commissioners are
position
saying.
that there is substantial evidence that you're allowed to use reasonable inferences, and that if they came in at 1 o'clock and they're out at 1:30 and they're falling down drunk where they can't even understand the most fundamental question by the officers and they're non-compliant, that clearly it's reasonable, a reasonable mind is led to conclude that there is substantial evidence that they were intoxicated when they were served. I will just say that.
Yeah, and I'd just like to apologize for interrupting you because you didn't interrupt me, so I apologize for that.
And I interrupt everybody.
Yeah, that's okay. Look, like I said, I agree, we didn't present evidence that the person was visibly intoxicated at the time that they were handed a drink. We're going to go on they were intoxicated later, therefore they must have been intoxicated when they got the drink. You know, whether that'll be overturned, since we've adopted the standard, we've been overturned a few times.
Actually, he's been very lucky. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he could be trying to defend himself in a homicide. That guy could have died out there. He obviously had people, I mean, I don't care how she restrained him or anything, she restrained one of the people because she knew they were gonna go out and fight. It got out of hand. And although it handled in the parking lot or wherever, there were one drunk, okay?
I don't think anybody knew there was going to be a fight, and I think the evidence showed that it
I
was
think everybody
substantially after
hoped
the
there
pub had
wasn't.
closed.
They got the two men that were arguing out. For some reason, we have a mindset that, you know what, this is my licensed premises. I mean, I own a parking lot that'll hold 50 people, but you know what? That's not my licensed premise. This is my license. So if I can get them out there, I'm home free. No, you're not. And I think that Commissioner Occasion is being more than generous on a 3-day suspension, more than.
Look, and I'll say, yeah, I know the chairman believes that the licensed premises should include parking lots. The ABCC and the state have told us that it doesn't. But regardless of that, I mean, I agree with you that I don't think there was any way to know there was going to be a fight. The people who had the only argument that is reported were not the ones involved in this. As a matter of fact, we still don't know who this attempted murderer was, and we know that no charges are going to be pressed. I'm a little perturbed by the fact that there's more evidence out there that hasn't been presented to us. I'm very curious as to the identities and why we're not bringing that information to us. Every other time we've had a case that's involved some violence outside of a bar, we've gotten the names of the people involved. Even when we had, I want to say 2 years ago, a stabbing that took place downtown Lowell following an argument at the Under Impact, we were given the names and the witness statements. So I want to know what the name of the guy is. I'd like that in the record, because I have a feeling that this smells a little funny.
It doesn't. And first of all, I find it ironic that this license commission all of a sudden, on this particular hearing, wants to abide by what the state says. Putting that aside, if you want it, Captain Webb said he has it. They explained why they did not have that information originally. It was because this was an initial investigation.
You didn't just imply that I don't abide by what the state says, did you?
If you want the information...
You didn't just imply that I don't abide by what the state says, did you?
Based on the division and bank pawnbroker rate? Well,
that's
what
they requested.
We're not going to get into a
We haven't
debate
made a
on that right
decision
now.
on that yet.
We have a motion for a 3-day suspension.
If I
Well,
may just inquire.
If you want, again, I just want to point,
No, no,
make it out that we can get the
we can go back
information.
and get all the papers we want. I don't care. I told you that. I don't care who used the baseball bat or whatever it was. The situation got out of control, and I believe in my heart and soul in common sense. And this is the problem with this board sometimes. We become too analytical. Anyways, the point being that it's just common sense. This thing didn't just, these people did not just appear walking down Rogers Street. The police officer didn't need to test the people to know that they were fall down drunk. He's got the experience, the training, and he's putting his life at risk trying to stop these idiots from hurting each other. You know what? She admitted that there was an argument inside. I have a hard time believing that the beer muscle didn't get up and go. It obviously concerned somebody because they kept one of them inside. You know, I think that Commissioner Cajun is being more than generous with a 3-day suspension, and I will second that.
I don't know if I still have permission to speak or not, Mr. Chairman.
Speak.
Thank you, sir. But, you know, I would just have to ask this commission, in light of everything that we've heard and what's going on today, is there another least restrictive means that we could consider for the pub? For example, if they were to close early for a certain number of months, or some other means other than a 3-day suspension on their license, is that something that this commission would consider in lieu of a 3-day suspension?
I'm going to stick, my motion still stands.
The motion stands.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think we just get to 3 days.
So the motion's clear. It's 3 days on the over-serving.
3 days on the
and-
over-serving.
And no finding.
No findings on the other two
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then my follow-up, Mr. Chairman, is if the motion were to carry, is this commission inclined to work with the owner to either pick the days of the suspension and also to stay the execution pending an appeal to the
Oh, yeah,
Alcohol
we'll stay
Commission?
if you want to appeal it, absolutely. And we'll work with them on the days. We're not, we're not trying to put anybody out of business. We're trying to make folks understand that alcohol and going into that business, and I know this gentleman, and I know the things that he's involved in, I know the charities he's done for the city. But it comes a point where you got to be smart enough not to let these bums in your bar. Because these people aren't here. They're not paying you, sir. That gentleman's paying you, okay? The rest of them are all at home or at some other bar sucking down a few beers and going to get the next guy in trouble. And until the day that people are smart enough to realize it's your liquor license, you don't have to serve them, get out. It's that simple. 1 o'clock. If nobody should be coming to the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. Nobody. We should be smart enough to know that the other towns are closing. So they jump like idiots in their car and run in to grab one beer. We've told people that 1,000,000 times.
If I could make one suggestion, I would just suggest that either it's a 3-day period for one weekend and it's stayed to let them file an appeal, or if they want to work out the date, that could be worked out, but I wouldn't do both where they work out the date and it still stayed for the appeal. I would suggest one or the other.
That's what I was just asking the secretary about, because that seems to giving too much latitude.
All right.
Well, the only reason I asked is I think it's a 5-day notice on receipt of the decision. Naturally, my client would want to consider whatever his options may be. That's why I was asking.
Well, if I may just interject on a stipulation, if there would be one, to say that if the licensee was being allowed to choose the 3-day suspension, they waive any appeal right they may have under this Chapter 138.
I mean, to common sense, like, again, using common sense, it seems to me that the goal of Kilkenny Pub would not to be closed down during 4th of July weekend. That would be my, just from you asking that, that makes the most sense to me. That's when he's going to do a lot of business. I think if the secretary doesn't get the letter out till Monday, which is, because there's a lot of other stuff that's going on, you would be fine going through the 4th of July, even if you, I mean, you may not get it out by Monday, you could get it out later. That would go through the weekend of the 4th of July, and then
I think just for the sake of, for the License Commission office, in terms of forwarding a notice of decision in a timely manner, I would say that the letter of notice probably wouldn't go out till July 1st or July 2nd of possibly a week from today, when the notice of decision would be mailed to the licensee of record and to you, sir. So upon receipt of the notice, the licensee has, within 5 days of receipt, to file an appeal hearing, request for appeal with the ABCC.
Yes, sir.
And so if you should choose to, if should he, the licensee, wish to appeal, all they need to do is request of the License Commission a stay of the suspension, should the License Commission set the dates, and you don't have a hearing date till sometime maybe September or October on the appeal.
Right. So, could you just give me one moment to speak with Mr.?
Sure.
That's what they want, though, right? They want to be open the 4th of July.
If I may just make the request as far as the dates, maybe July 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then after the hearing, I could communicate a little bit more with Mr. Barrett, and we can communicate to the Secretary of the Board in terms of what the overall intent would be.
yeah, I
Sort
mean,
of
you're gonna
had-
waive your appeal and be closed the 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Well, I don't want to waive the appeal today, but what I'm offering is, this is a difficult forum to sort of have a general discussion with Mr. Barrett, but if those were the dates that the board would consider, I could certainly communicate to your secretary in short order in terms of what we would be doing.
Yeah, he's got 5 days from the date he receives the letter. Right?
Right.
Let's let it go like that. Let him do what he wants to do with it.
Yeah, we'll just make, I'll amend my motion that 3-day suspension occur July 4th, July 5th, and July 6th.
Okay.
Get a second?
Second.
Well, I think that...
Second. Yes or no?
You have a vote?
I do have a vote, all right? And I'd like to be consistent, so I'm going to vote no because I like the fact that I'm the only commissioner who hasn't been overturned here. And I'd like to keep that good record if this were to go up on appeal.
So are you, it's a waiver of the appeal?
No, he's not gonna waive the appeal.
Well, I'd communicate to you in writing in relatively short order after I have a little bit more time to talk to Mr. Barrett.
Well, whatever I want, just before we take a vote on, I mean, Ray voted, but we haven't voted yet. What would your suggestion be?
Well, the thing, the situation is such that you want to set the suspension period beyond the time in which the appeal may be filed with the ABCC.
Right, so if we waive in writing to you, we will be accepting those dates. So I would be waiving to you in writing if that,
Well,
if
you're not
that's
gonna-
the intent.
Okay.
You're not gonna get it until probably July 1st.
The fact of the matter, sir, I don't know if you had a chance to review the agenda before this hearing. The Law Office of the License Commission is one person.
I see.
You're looking at him.
Okay, sir.
I have a pressing matter to take care of in the next 48-hour business days. I got tomorrow and Monday to handle some particular peculiar situation for the downtown business owners.
Okay.
And that's going to take most of my time for the next tomorrow and Monday. Okay, so all I'm suggesting to you, sir, or to the board if they wish to accept is Mr. Barrett, obviously, and his sister will make a decision that's in their best interest. obviously, the License Commission doesn't need to close the establishment forthwith. It doesn't appear that way from what I'm hearing, and I think that's the gist of it. So I think the License Commission ought to set days outside of the weekend of the 4th into maybe the 3rd or 4th weekend of July. If they wish to have the appeal, they have ample opportunity to file an appeal with the ABCC. At that point, the License Commission on the suspension would stop. There would not be any suspension until after the appeal hearing with the ABC has been held, and the ABC has made its decision whether they uphold the License Commission's action or they choose not to uphold it. They remand it for cause to the local board, for which the local board will then have to take it up once again for another hearing.
Yes, sir, and the only thing that I'm asking is that if between the time that we leave this hearing today and after I've had a chance to discuss the options with Mr. Barrett, if he decides to waive his right to appeal, that it would just take place forthwith, the 4th, 5th, and 6th.
If I may make a suggestion, my suggestion would be that the motion be essentially bifurcated, that one motion is that it be suspended for 3 days, the weekend of July 23rd, or in the alternative, if the licensee wants to waive their rights of appeal, that it can be exercised on July 4th, 5th, and 6th.
That's what they've been saying.
But that's for you to accept, and if you wish to, then they have that choice to make, and they have to let the License Commission office know.
But that's what
the
they
next
want,
week.
is 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, or 4th, 5th, and 6th, whatever it is.
But Brian just said we would.
I know, we're missing it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Commissioner Occasion has made a motion to suspend the license for 3 days
Yep.
based on over-service by the server, bartender,
Yep.
based on the evidence we have before you. The suspension of license should take effective Friday, July 23rd, Saturday, July 24th, Sunday, July 25th. When I get the notice to the licensee and to the attorney, which I hope to have out by Friday, July 2nd at the latest, the licensee then can choose to either file an appeal with the ABCC, let the License Commission know of their request for appeal hearing, then until ABC sets a date for the hearing, the suspension period of the 23rd, 24th, and 25th is held in abeyance until after the appeal hearing before the ABC is held, and in which time the ABC then has to render its decision. So the actual suspension period would be sometime after July 23rd, 24th, and 25th. If they want to waive their right to appeal now make it known to the License Commission, and then you'll suspend the license effective 4th, 5th, and 6th of July. We have other hearings to take care of at the moment, Mr. Chairman. Counsel can certainly confer with his client while we start the next hearing, and then come back to the License Commission afterwards.
I could certainly do that, or I could just agree to communicate with you in writing of our waiver prior to you issuing the decision.
But we're gonna issue the decision. All right, I'm gonna make a motion that we suspend the license for I will amend my motion to suspend it for 3 days, July 24th, 23rd, 24th, 25th. If before July 1st, 2010, we have written waiver from Attorney Manzi, and in that waiver, he requests that the license be suspended July 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yes, sir.
We will grant that.
Okay, I'll second that motion. No. Okay, he says no.
No.
And I vote
2
yes.
yeses. Okay? Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, Ryan, why don't you make those part of the record? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the commission.
Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, we have another hearing scheduled regarding Complaint from the Superintendent of Police, Kenneth E. LaValle, Superintendent of Police. Allegations of misconduct against the all-alcoholic beverage restaurant licensee Sangria's Inc. at 179 Central Street. Michael Doyle, manager. Mr. Doyle? Is Mr. Doyle here? Is anyone here representing Sangria's Inc.?
Good, that's one we don't have to hear. Go to the next one.
Was he properly served?
Yes. Notice of hearing was sent to the licensee of record dated May 26, 2010 by First Class United States Postal Service and also by a return receipt request. And the return receipt came back signed from somebody at the place of business at 177, 179 Central Street.
I'll make a motion to revoke the license.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
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 And the city would just, or the police department would just ask that you rely on the documents that have previously been provided.
I know we just voted to revoke that. If we revoke it, there can't be a license there for 2 years. That's my concern. I don't want.
No,
Okay.
that was for
Owner-occupied
used car dealer. In this case, a revocation means Mr. Doyle cannot get a license for the remainder of this calendar year, plus of all of 2011. He does not own the premises, so if he owned the premises, it couldn't be leased out for the remainder of the year. However, since he doesn't own it, the owner of the building could lease it out tomorrow to a new applicant.
Good. Next on the agenda.
Do I have a second on that?
Yes, we all voted yes.
Yes, we all
You have a
voted
3 to
yes.
0.
Your mother and us had nice kids.
I don't know about you guys, I'm dying.
I am too, so, puffing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commission will now open a hearing. Again, another complaint from the Superintendent of Police, Kenneth E. LaValle, against the licensee known as Puff Inc. at 171 Lakeview Avenue. Claude Charlotte is the manager of record.
Oh, Claude. Hi, introduce yourself, Claude.
My name is Claude Charlotte.
Tell you right now, you're in a bad situation. We know you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
I
Yes.
said that before, so have you read the complaint?
Yes, I have read the complaint. I plead no contest because I can't blame the doorman.
Okay, if you'd wait a few moments, I'm going to have Captain Webb give a brief overview of the complaint
Yes.
to the listening audience.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, on May 28th this year, detectives assigned to the Special Investigations Section were conducting compliance checks in the city of Lowell under the supervision of Lieutenant Hodgson. A 16-year-old male and an 18-year-old female were assisting the detectives in the compliance checks. At 10:33 p.m., the male and female entered the C spot at 171 Lakeview Avenue. They exited from the bar 2 minutes later at 10:35 and reported to Lieutenant Hodgson. They told the lieutenant that they had paid $5 cover charge at the door and that they had then bought Bud Light beer from the male bartender. Lieutenant Hodgson then entered the C spot and he found Mr. Charlotte behind the bar. And Mr. Charlotte did berate the doorman for not checking IDs, and Lieutenant Hodgson explained to him it was his responsibility to check for identification when he served them. Lieutenant Hodgson is here to testify.
Thank you.
He's not disputing it.
Excuse me?
He said he wasn't disputing it.
You're not disputing the complaint?
I'm just gonna, the night what had happened, it's true. I was there. I'm not gonna blame it on nobody. If the doorman failed, it's my job to pick up the slack, and I failed to do that.
What's the status of Puff Inc. right now?
Well, there's been no, if I remember correctly, I don't have everything in front of me, but no suspension of license.
Probation?
Are they on probation? That was my,
Don't they have- aren't they on-
I'm sorry.
Are they on probation? That's my.
There is no, Captain, do you know off the top of your head if it's for probation or? I think the probationary period, if there was one, it expired last year, the end of
Right.
last year,
Yeah, it
2009.
expired last year.
So that was back when we had a complaint before the board in March of 2009.
I was going to suggest that, again, in reviewing what's gone on The ABCC generally treats underage service in two different categories. One are the compliance checks, and they give one set of discipline for those, and two are where they actually find minors in bars consuming alcohol who are not placed there by law enforcement, and I would say that in those circumstances, the penalties are much more severe. Generally, where it's a compliance check that's being conducted, the ABCC is imposed anywhere from a reprimand to 3 or 4 days suspended for a period of up to a year. Where it's been an actual individual consuming alcohol underage, it's been periods of license suspension for anywhere from 7 to 17 days. So in this, I'm going to recommend a 4-day suspension and suspend it for a period of probation. And then I think that's consistent with what has been applied across the state. So.
Do you have a second?
I'd like to add a 1-week rollback of hours to that.
I'll second that.
Okay. That's a 3-day suspension, suspended.
I said 4, but.
4 days, excuse me, 4 days suspended for a year?
Suspended.
Held in abeyance for 1 year.
Held in abeyance for 1 year?
And
And a 1-week rollback to 10 o'clock, 11?
Well, 11 is all we can
11
do.
o'clock.
11
Back by
girls,
law.
okay, all right.
Commencing,
Yeah, I'll
commencing
go along
today.
with that.
Yes,
Commencing
sir.
tonight.
Starting tonight?
Starting tonight. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be closed at
Close at
11.
11 o'clock.
Okay, can you just shut me down for at least 3 or 4 consecutive days instead of rolling back my hours? Because I open at 9 o'clock, so it would be a waste of time for me to open
That's
at
why I'm
9,
doing it.
then close at 11, you know?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So effective today is a 4-day suspension, suspended, held in abeyance for 1 year for probation.
Okay.
In the meantime, as of this evening, you are to close at 11 p.m. for the next 7 days, starting tonight.
Starting tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor say yes.
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 Thank you.
You're
Thank you so much.
Don't want to see you again.
I'm trying not to come here again. Thank you so
No,
much.
don't try. There's
will
a difference between trying and doing.
Okay, I
I
promise I won't be
don't
here
want
no
to see
more.
you here again.
Thank you.
No, I know, but that guy's been in here so many times.
Okay. Next on the agenda.
Commission will now take up a hearing on a complaint from the Superintendent of Police, Kenneth E. LaValle, allegations of misconduct against licensee Europa Cafe, Inc., at 547 Central Street. Joseph Sameo is the manager of record.
Come up and introduce yourself, please.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Brian Shea. I've had a law office here in Lowell for about 20 years. My first time before you, it's a pleasure. Representing Europa Cafe, and Joseph Sameo is a licensee, and he's accompanied today by Philomena Sameo.
Have you read the complaint?
I have, and we can waive the reading. I have read it.
Okay. Captain Webb, if you'd give a synopsis of the complaint to the record.
Mr. Chairman, this is another compliance check for May 28th of this year. Special investigation detectives under the supervision of Lieutenant Hodgson were conducting these compliance checks, being assisted by a 16-year-old male and an 18-year-old female. At 8:22 p.m., the male and female entered the Europa Cafe, and they exited at 8:26 and reported to Lieutenant Hodgson. They told Lieutenant Hodgson that the 16-year-old male had paid $5 for 2 Budweiser beers, and identified by description a female bartender. Lieutenant Hodgson then entered the Europa Cafe and found Philomena Sameo behind the bar, and she was given a written notification of the violation. Lieutenant Hodgson is here today.
Okay. Officer Hodgson, do you want to give us your own, situation in your own words, not You don't have to read it, just, sure.
Yeah, so May 28, 2010, I was in charge of the Special Investigation Section. On that day, we conducted 20 compliance checks in the city of Lowell of our bars. We went to the Europa Cafe at approximately 8:22 p.m. As the captain stated, we sent the 2 minors in the bar. They did not carry identification. They only carried money on them supplied by me. Upon entering the bar, they stated they went to the actual bar. There was approximately 3 or 4 patrons in there, including the bartender. The male ordered 2 beers. He paid the female bartender 2 beers, and upon exiting, he returned to my location and basically told me what I just stated. He gave a description of the bartender. Upon entering the bar, I spoke to Ms. Sameo, who was identified by a mass driver's license. I informed that she just served a 16-year-old male and 18-year-old female, and I gave her a violation notification and informed her that she should be notified some date to appear in front of the License Commission.
Okay, Counselor, do you have any questions of him?
I do not have any questions for Mr.
Do you have any questions, Brian?
Not of the officer, no.
Do you have any questions of the officer?
No.
Okay.
Commissioners, if I could just to make a brief statement on
Sure.
behalf of Cafe Europa. Excuse me. My understanding of the events of that night, it was approximately 8:30, and there were very few people in the bar, and Mr. Sameo, Philomena Sameo, was the sole bartender there that evening. She, by the way, has 20 years' experience selling alcohol in the alcohol sales business. And she is assistant and supervises all the other employees, Mr. Smale being the manager. She saw the patrons come in. She approached them, asked them if they wanted to sit at the bar or if they were going to sit at a table and have something to eat. She tells me that she looked them up and down. They stated they'd like to sit at the bar, so that's what they did. Asked them what they wanted, and as she was getting 2 bottles of beer, she gave them another look and served them. She regrets very much having done that without getting a picture ID from them. That is her always the way she does it. But that particular instance, she made a mistake. As I say, she supervises the other bartenders. They're all tip certified. This is a very embarrassing situation for her. First person she had to call after being cited was her boss, who was boss of her husband, who inquired, who was it that served these young patrons. In addition, her own employees, but it has served as a valuable lesson. Obviously, these sting operations are done to deter sales to minors and to heighten, I guess I don't have to tell this commission, to heighten the awareness of these establishments. And I can fairly say that the awareness has been certainly heightened. Again, she's embarrassed to be here in front of the commission. She's, as far as being more vigilant in the future, she's told me stories just how now she's getting picture IDs from much older people now who are asking, come on, why are you doing this? I haven't seen the picture that is customarily taken according to the ABCC guidelines, and I don't think that's necessary for this proceeding, but she does tell me that she made a judgment call, and she she knows that's not the proper procedure to make that call. In your deliberations, as far as how you'd like to proceed, I'd like to point out that the Europa has worked with the commission in the past and with the police department to take whatever steps to be a good neighbor, to do the right thing. I'm sure you haven't seen them here in quite a while. In addition, in terms of a penalty on the establishment itself, I don't think what was mentioned was that Philomena Sameo herself has been cited criminally. Again, a very big embarrassment to her. She's never been charged with a criminal offense. She has to go down and answer that at the Lowell District Court. She is counsel here today, counsel there then, and I would suggest that the lesson has been learned. And thank you for your time. Unless you have a question.
I'll make a motion that we suspend the license for 4 days, hold it in abeyance for 1 year, and roll the hours back to 11 p.m. commencing this evening for 1 week.
I think there's a difference between this place and the last. I'll say I think there's a difference between this place and the C Spot. I know that since you were last in, you've actually taken steps to eliminate having parties in the upstairs room, which was the cause of the problems that had you in here. Look, I don't know how familiar you are with the client's history, that they were in front of us more than a year ago or so. I think we had a series of 18-plus parties and musical CD release parties, etc., which were open, and there were crowds that were outside, and that was causing problems in the neighborhood. And again, I don't know how much you've spoken to your client about it. I don't, but I live in the neighborhood, and I know that they've stopped having those parties. They've stopped having all the late-night events. They've stopped, well, basically, they've stopped doing anything that's created any problems in the neighborhood. So, you know, I would distinguish them from our last bar that was in here for, well, our last 3 meetings. So I would just, I would vote for the 4-day suspension, but I wouldn't vote for the rollback. That's suspended for a year.
I'll second the motion, not his.
What motion you're dealing with?
I'm dealing with Brian.
Commissioner Casey.
Okay.
That's the one that's present at the moment.
I'm sorry?
That's the one you
Yes,
have before you.
absolutely, yep.
So it'd be a 4-day suspension.
4-day suspension, suspended,
held in
roll back
abeyance for 1 year
Yep.
probation, and
Yep.
roll back to 11 p.m. starting
Tonight.
for 7 days.
Yep.
If I could I have one moment with my client? Thank you.
Do you want to vote on that, Commissioner Leica?
Well, you know,
I assume.
I vote in favor of the 4-day suspended for a year. However that reflects.
You don't want the rollback?
No, I'm distinguishing it from the other place, which has been in front of us for 3 meetings in a row.
No, they haven't.
Or, well, 3 out of the last 4 meetings, you know.
I made the motion, I voted yes.
Yes.
If the motion is 4-day suspension for a year and the rollback of hours, Commissioner Weiker's vote would be a no, because you can't substitute motion or do half of it. It would either be accept the motion as is, or it's an up or down thing.
Well, I'm just, you know, in the event that there's an appeal filed, I want it on record that I did support the 4-day suspension of the license held in abeyance for a year.
Before we vote, is there anything?
And I will say that I know there's nothing that a person can do as far as the law requires with respect to appealing a rollback of hours. So,
Yes, John?
Again, I just want to make sure the vote is clear on
Yeah,
that.
well,
no.
what? Come over to the mic, please.
I've been on this business for 40 years. When I come to this country as a gentleman right here with a message, He was been like a father to me. And I respect the United States of America so much from people like him. And they make me better than what I was. Never mind, a kid gets in there, bite to someone, and go through with this. Thank you. Thank you.
The problem is, Joe, that, excuse me, I'll put the mic on. The problem is, and I understand what you're saying, you're a businessman and you're trying to make a living. The problem is that in many respects, it's a good thing, as crazy as it sounds, that on this compliance check, nobody got hurt. It could have just as easily been somebody else that walked in the bar, teenagers or minors, had a couple of beers, and I know your wife didn't do it. This makes for great family relations, I'm sure. Does it make for a good discussion, Philomena? I'm sure it does. I mean, it's tough. There's no two business. I was in business with my wife. I know what it's like. I know what, it's hard. But, the thing is that it's a blessing in many respects because we become too familiar with our customers. We become too comfortable. And today you can't afford to be comfortable. You have to be on the edge of your chair every day. Every day.
If I could inquire.
Before I... Question. Yeah, no, on the establishment that was here before, Huff Inc.
Yep.
Do you know, Commissioner Weicker said they were here 3 meetings in a row?
They've been here a lot in the last couple of meetings.
I mean, I think what I'm gonna do is, when Ray said that, that kind of hit me a little bit because you guys did get in some serious trouble about a year ago and you've cleaned up your act and closed the place down. So I'll withdraw my motion and I'll second Ray's motion to suspend it for 4 days, hold it in abeyance for 1 year.
That would be appreciated.
Okay.
Commissioner Weicker had mentioned if I was familiar with the history, and I think I am. I think it's been about 15 months since they were here, and they've really made some.
Like I know, I said
to correct those.
I said that they have, and I've noticed it, that they've cut down any of those teen parties. They've cut down the music parties. They've gotten rid of.
They've
all
shifted
of
the focus.
Drawing the
That's
crowds
right.
to the young kids. They've gone back to being primarily a restaurant that has a bar that's open up after hours. The character of the place has changed. The neighborhood has not had any complaints, and I said, I live there, so I'm familiar with it. So
Okay, so now we have a motion, substitute motion, or he withdrew the motion?
Based on Commissioner Occasion's comment just now that he would withdraw his motion, in which you
Okay.
would second it, in which there was a
Now we have a
vote.
motion that we're gonna, 4-day suspension held in abeyance for 1 year. The motion's been seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right,
Very good, appreciate
4
that.
days. Okay, well, put up a big sign, ask for IDs. Ask for, if they're 90 years old and they come in a wheelbarrow, get an ID. It's that simple. There's a package store on Chelmsford Street. I can't think of the name of it. It's right next to Stanfield Tire. And you walk in the store, you got a 4x8 sheet of plywood with a sign right there, so you can't miss it. It can't hit you. And I said to the guy, you ought to go around the city and teach people. That's the most important sign of everything. You just become too comfortable and you take it for granted, okay?
Yes, thank you. I know it's
Take
been a
care.
long afternoon for you. I just explained to them, and they appreciate it very much.
Good luck, guys. See ya.
Yes.
Hey, Joe, you got to kiss and make up now. Get out of here. Anything else on the agenda, Mr. Secretary?
Well, I'm going to defer to the Assistant City Solicitor, Brian Leahy, on the matter of TR Enterprises, Inc. There is no one here representing TR Enterprises, Inc. I'm sorry. I will defer to the Assistant City Solicitor, Brian Leahy, on the TR Enterprises matter, because there presently is no one here on them for that.
I was hoping someone would be here. I believe Ryan spoke to the attorney, because to find out, you know, the city has a position with regards to how the hearing, or whether or not the attorney can represent the individual. Was hoping to find out today whether or not they were in agreement with that or not. However, no one is here. I would suggest that both matters be put down for a hearing at I think you have one on the July 24th, do you have 22nd? I would put it on for that date, and either that or the first week in August, and that whatever needs to be done will be done ahead of time, and that the hearing should go forward.
Yeah, why don't we put it on for the first one in August, just because the July 22nd is right before Folk
Oh,
Festival.
yeah, actually, with all the stuff that we need to do.
Yeah.
That probably makes sense.
So August 5th?
Yep. Okay, so motion to do it for August 5th.
Two matters?
Yes.
August 5th is the hearing date for TR Enterprises?
Yes, for both matters.
Okay. That's it.
All right, gentlemen, I think that's it. You have anything? Anything?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn and
Second.
seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
We're coming home, Benjamin. I'm sure he's already home.